Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Need a powerful and entertaining way to ignite your next conference, retreat, or team building session? My keynotes don't include magic, but they do have the power to help your attendees take a leap forward by putting emotional intelligence into their employee engagement, and customer-centric leadership practices. So bring the infotainment creativity of the Fast Leader Show to your next event, and I'll help your attendees get over the hump now. Go to beyondmorale.com/speaking to learn more. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today we're going to have a great show because our guest has insights into some of the skills that all of us need to succeed today. Brian Sullivan was born in Baltimore, Maryland, with two older brothers and an older sister. He grew up playing lacrosse, tending bars, waiting tables, and eventually he received his undergraduate degree and his MBA in marketing from Loyola University, Maryland. He began his professional career with Xerox Corporation, where he learned a great deal about needs-based selling and client focus in an energized team selling environment. After moving from Xerox, he began his 30-year career with Capgemini in a sales role, but soon moved on to leadership and management positions, serving clients and growing businesses with this Paris-based global consulting firm. While at Capgemini, Brian became familiar with the Sandler selling system and joined Sandler in 2012 to develop the Sandler Enterprise Selling. The subject of the book he co-authored with CEO Dave Mattson, Sandler Enterprise Selling, Winning, Growing, and Retaining Major Accounts. Brian is currently the Vice President of Sandler Enterprise Selling and is responsible for the program's operation worldwide. Brian is a lifelong runner that lives in Phoenix, Maryland, with his wife Cindy, and they are the proud parents of 3 daughters and the grandparents of Quinn and Max. Brian Sullivan, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Ready to go, Jim. Well done. Couldn't have said that better myself.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Now, I've given our listeners a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Yeah, so my passion is really involved with what I do from a Sandler Enterprise Selling standpoint. We rolled out this program 18 months ago, and my role is to support the Sandler network of franchisees all over the world in helping them deliver this program and delight their clients.
You know, you and I had the opportunity to chat a little bit before, and, you know, even though you're talking about really the work and what you're doing, it seemed to me like really one of your major passions, it really comes down to helping others. Because, I mean, you talked about where your career was launched to, and you had mentioned something about, you know, waiting tables and tending bar and doing all that, how that was just a major passion and really got you into enjoying what you're doing today. I mean, how did you find your way so quickly?
Well, it's a great question, Jim. I believe strongly in a service mentality about what you do from a life standpoint and also from a selling standpoint. And if you think about it, selling is really about having a clear understanding of the needs of the people that you deal with so that you can earn the right to either help them or understand clearly that you can't help them. That's really what selling is all about. And if you think about it, it's not a bad way to live your life, clearly understanding the needs of people you're with so that you know how to help them one way or the other. So that's what I strongly believe in, you know, the service mentality of selling. And as you know, so many people have a view of selling as being, you know, the giving, the pushing, the pitching. That's really, really not what it's all about.
You know, and one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is, first of all, I've been exposed to the Sandler selling system for many years, but looking at the 6 strategies and the 13 tools that are associated with the enterprise process, it started me down a path of thinking about how really today, when you start looking at any initiative of significance, is that people have to do a job 2 ways. First of all, if I'm selling the solutions for those initiatives, yes, the outside piece and doing all that's important, but also internally, the selling has become more challenging with more stakeholders involved, and it isn't something that you could easily just, you know, go into and have your business case and pitch for. It requires much more than that.
Yeah. So, and you mentioned the internal piece. I mean, we tend to view enterprise selling as really working internally and externally. from an external standpoint, clearly you're selling into large, complex organizations that bring unique challenges such as, extended sales cycles and really sophisticated competitors and wide, diverse buyer networks. But with that comes the challenge and the opportunity, if you will, of marshaling all of the resources in your organization to address those very challenges. And truthfully, that can call on all your sales skills, all of your abilities, as I mentioned before, to understand the needs of the people on your team so that you can marshal them effectively to serve your clients.
Man, that's a really key word that you've just laid out a couple times, and that's that marshaling piece. And if you started looking at folks, it doesn't, and talking about inside and outside selling, when you start thinking about that marshaling process, what does that mean?
Well, if you think about it, if your ultimate objective, in an organization is to, win business and serve clients, then you need to make certain that you're aligning all of the assets within your organization. I mean, people typically think of the physical assets, but the human assets as well. Aligning all of those assets to map to the clients whose business you're trying to win. So I mentioned before that, typically in selling into enterprise organizations, you're dealing with a wide, diverse buyer network, as opposed to simple selling, if you will, where quite often you can be sitting across the desk, from the owner of a company. In selling into large, complex organizations, you're dealing with a network of buyers that bring functions from legal, from accounting, from finance. Well, it's your responsibility, and again, to use that word, to marshal the assets of your organization to align to those people in the buyer network, to map, if you will, ducks with ducks, because if you think about it, Jim, if you ever see a situation where a sales rep is trying to deal with an attorney from a buying organization, they absolutely don't speak the same language. But if you can map it so that an attorney from your organization is dealing with someone from the buying team, the conversation becomes so much more streamlined. It's no longer about clauses and semicolons. Quite often it's about, where you went to school or who you knew in law school.
That's a great point. Goes back to that personal connection piece. Now, I do know, for myself, throughout my, professional career, even when it came to the face-to-face retail sales to, some of the complex selling that I have to do now, is that, it requires a level of resilience and boldness that, you have to be able to keep moving forward to do some of that marshaling and all of that. And patience, oh my goodness. All of those things come into play. And one of the things that we look to on the show is quotes, because a lot of times they help give us those reminders of those things to help us keep moving forward. Is there a quote or two that you can share with us?
Yeah, so that's a great point. And the concept in this enterprise world of moving forward, as you say, a decision to move forward or a decision to stop moving forward, both of those are gifts. So what I like to talk about is you need to be able to make early exits or early acceleration. When you're selling into major organizations, when you're dealing with enterprise accounts, the investment that you make is phenomenal. I talked earlier about the physical assets and the human assets that you're using in going after a major account. Under any condition, the assets are scarce. You don't have unlimited resources to help you win a deal. So the sooner you can determine whether or not this is a deal you should be pursuing, that's the most important decision you can make. Just as I mentioned earlier, in interpersonal communication, understanding if you can help someone or you can't, that's giving a gift to that person. You're giving a gift to yourself in pursuing enterprise organizations by being able to qualify as quickly as you can whether you should be there or not.
Oh, that's a great point. Gosh, when I start thinking about those words and what you were explaining, is that how does one get to the point to where they can build either the skills, and I have to say they're really skills because it's a little bit more than just an intuition. How do they build the skills in order to be able to know when to accelerate or get out? Because we always run that risk of, especially in a sales environment or, well, even in that internal environment where it's contingent on us making some impact, positive impact, of course, Yes, focusing where we can, but we also have the fear of pulling out too soon. It's like the whole stock market thing. People don't buy on the high or sell on the high side. They wait. Hey, it's going to go higher because I don't want to lose out on any potential return. And then when it drops, they don't sell then either. So it's like they kind of get stuck with something that they can't do anything with. I mean, how do you know when to go or when to try to grow it?
Yeah. So again, that's a really significant point. And, as is often the case, it helps to have a process to follow, Jim. And a little example, we have a Sandler trainer in Austin, Texas, and he was meeting with the president of a firm in Austin. And the president of the firm told him, she said, every time I make a decision to go after a piece of business, it costs me $40,000. Win or lose, it cost me $40,000. So she said, if you can help me determine that the deals I go after are the ones I'm most likely to win, and also that if I'm in a pursuit, I can understand whether I should exit or put my foot on the accelerator, I'm really interested. And so what was shared with that client was a process that we use, which evaluates a number of business issues tied to a deal, so you can make a determination as to whether you're stable or whether you have risk that you need to mitigate. And if you have risk you need to mitigate, then you need to take actions to reduce those risks. And when you're finished doing that process with a number of different business issues, then you've got it staring you in the face. If you decide to move forward when you do have significant risk, that's a calculated decision that you make, and you may still make that decision. But quite often, understanding the level of risk you're facing will give you the gift of being able to exit the process and then go find an opportunity that you should be applying all those scarce assets to pursue an opportunity that you're much more likely to win. So it's really about having a solid process, Jim, to help you make those decisions.
Gosh, as you were talking, thanks for sharing that. As I started even thinking about an internal person who's an expert, in their career. I mean, because what I find oftentimes is there's some people who are stuck in organizations that are highly skilled and nothing can move forward. And probably because they don't have that framework to be able to say, you know what, it's time for me to go because I need to be able to give value to some other organization that wants, me to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to get frustrated and burned out. And then I get burned out in my spot instead of, going and trying to continue to grow. So thanks for sharing that. Okay. So, we chatted a little bit about, you working with Capgemini, with you, moving with Sandler and even before that. But, in order for us to grow and get to the point of really solidifying our knowing that we are built to serve, takes a while. We have to get over humps and many other humps in life. Is there a time where you can remember where you've had to get over a hump and it really made a difference for you in your life and career?
So let me take you back in time, if I may, for just a minute, Jim. So as you mentioned, I started at Xerox when I got out of school, and interestingly enough, you also mentioned that I waited tables, and life is integrated throughout. I just wanted to share that I actually got the job at Xerox from waiting tables. I was waiting tables down at the beach the summer between my junior and senior year. Waited on a guy from Xerox who asked me to send in my resume when I got it together, and I did. And that's ultimately how I ended up getting the job at Xerox. So the ball's always in play, as it were, and that was really how I got started in selling. So at Xerox, it was an incredibly collaborative and communicative environment, and we were schooled to use all of the assets of the organization to make decisions. And one of the ways that we built that premise is there was a story. There was a Xerox story that was based on the 914 copier. I don't know if you know about the 914 copier, but Xerox 914 was the first plain paper copier ever developed, and it was built by a bunch of brilliant engineers who took plain paper copying to the point where it could go to market. And with what was a very small company at that point, Xerox took the 914 to market, the first machine ever to print on plain paper. So it had the potential to revolutionize an industry. but it sold for $30,000, which was a lot of money in 1959, and it weighed 650 pounds, and it took up a footprint of over 20 square feet. And so as groundbreaking as the technology was, and as effective as the Xerox selling team was, very few companies, very few customers bought the 914. So Xerox undertook an internal cross-functional brainstorming exercise, and they brought people from throughout the organization, people from manufacturing, finance, accounting, and legal. In other words, they didn't just say this is a sales problem. They marshaled all of the elements of the organization together to come up with a new idea. And they did. They came up with a really bold and risky plan that rather than selling 914s, they were going to lease them to customers. And they were going to lease them at a really economical entry point of $99 per month. And with this economical entry plan, they made a huge bet on human nature, because they bet that customers were going to want to get away from copying onto chemically treated paper and dealing with messy inks, and that having the opportunity to copy on plain paper would be huge for customers. And it was a big, big bet, and it worked out really well, because for the $99, customers received 2,000 copies. And for every copy over 2,000, Xerox charged an additional cost. And after the first 6 months, after they got a ton of these 914s out in offices, the average copies generated by a customer were over 20,000 per month. Xerox's corporate revenues doubled in 1 year, and a few short years later, they were a billion-dollar company, all based on internal communication and collaboration, driving a really great team idea. So that stuck with me. That was something that stuck with me, and I carried it with me when I left Xerox.
That's a phenomenal story. I mean, when you start thinking about all of the people that came together, and also in Xerox, I had to imagine this team of engineers that you had to convince as well. That could be rather challenging. So,
no question. As you know, corporate human nature being what it is, the decision typically is, hey, we've got a sales problem, right? Let's change, the VP of sales, or let's get a bunch of new sales guys. But Xerox had the thinking, the foresight to be able to say, let's get everybody together and come up with a really good idea. And who could ever imagined that a pricing shift would produce what actually Forbes magazine would later call the most successful product in the history of the United States regarding ROI, all based on really collaborative thinking. And, that lives with me today, Jim. I remember when I moved on to CAP, we had a process where we would make decisions about huge deals that we went after by bringing together an executive committee, a bunch of high-level people in the company who all had their political agendas, and they would make decisions as to whether to go after certain pieces of business. But I really pioneered bringing the people from the trenches, bringing our delivery folks together, the folks who really had a pragmatic handle on what we were going to do for the client. And I marshaled them together to drive the decisions as to whether to go after pieces of business based not on political agendas, but based on what was best for the client.
Now, there's no way that was an easy task. I mean, so who did you have the most difficulty with trying to do that?
Well, that's a great point. Really, the folks who had built the executive committee concept, and regardless of the fact that, truthfully, I mean, a lot of people were thinking it didn't work any longer, but for the folks who had built it, they didn't want to change. But after a few success stories, their first few success stories didn't involve big wins for us, but they involved big deals that we decided not to pursue because we got some really solid input from the delivery team as to what the issues might be. In a deal, you often hear people talk about don't confuse sales and delivery, right? And it's kind of a really classic failure line because you go sell something and then you ask the delivery team to deliver something that can't be sold. Next thing you know, you've got a deal that's killing your year. So by bringing the delivery folks into the decision early on, we were able to do deals that were the right deals that would satisfy clients and in the end drive revenue and profitability at the same time.
Yeah, I know. Listening to you talk, and for me, it's really one of the reasons why I've continued and became certified in emotional intelligence. Because when you start talking about serving, selling, all of rapport building, relationship building, it's emotional intelligence. It's not the product. It's not your thingy. It's not what you do. It's how you engage and interact and how you project and it's all of those things associated with your emotional intelligence that's been proven over and over. So I know that we talked about that you're trying to grow the enterprise selling business. And of course, you got a couple grandkids, which is awesome. But if you started looking at all the things that you have going out, what are some of your goals?
So from a Sandler standpoint, so my goal is to grow the business so that we can serve clients worldwide. At this point, we're not translated in all the languages that we need to, and we that's our plan. But we're in 127 Sandler business operations in 12 countries in 18 months of existence, which is really exciting. But more than anything, we're doing great things in serving clients and arming them with some skills like the skills I talked about before, Jim, the ability to make educated go, no-go decisions about opportunities that you're trying to pursue as an organization. Because what we do is we arm our clients with those skills. So my charter, my challenge, my goal is to be able to deliver that to Sandler clients all over the world. So that's from a business standpoint. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'm a very, very family-oriented guy, and my focus is to serve my family, help our kids, grow their families, and do anything I can to be there for our kids and grandkids.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. The number one thing that contributes to customer loyalty is emotions. So move onward and upward faster by gaining significantly deeper insight and understanding of your customer journey and personas with emotional intelligence. With your empathy mapping workshop, you'll learn how to evoke and influence the right customer emotions that generate improved customer loyalty and reduce your cost to operate. Get over your emotional hump now by going to empathymapping.com to learn more. All right, Fast Leader listeners, it's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Brian, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Brian Sullivan, are you ready to hoe down?
Yes, sir.
All right, so what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Yeah, so it's certainly a challenge to keep pace with technology, social media, data, and all the rest. And I do a relatively good job of it, but truthfully, I need to be better.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
There's no question about that. We had a CEO at CAP named Jeff Unwin, and his guidance always was, do what you say you'll do.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
It's a service mentality, and within that, it's a mindset of responsiveness for the people that you serve.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Yeah, so I have two of them, and they're my ears.
What would be one book, and it could be from any genre, that you'd recommend to our listeners?
So I'm actually reading it right now, and it's awesome. Black Box Thinking by Matthew Syed. The ability to learn from mistakes. We all make them. We all better be making them. But it's the old, you win or you learn, right? So it's how to take a mistake and have it make you more effective in the future.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Brian Sullivan. Okay, Brian. This is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you. But you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
So I love this. This is the letter to me, right? It would be to be flexible, be willing to stray from the plan, take a chance.
Brian, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Yeah, so, and I'd be delighted to chat with anyone. I could be reached on email at Brian, BRIAN, .Sullivan, SULLIVAN, @Sandler, SANDLER.com. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We have a Sandler Enterprise Selling group on LinkedIn, which we'd love to have everyone join. So look forward to hearing from everyone.
Brian Sullivan, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.